Hello everyone. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with where you are from and what time you are watching. Your support helps us bring you more stories like this. Now, let us begin. It was Thursday, the 9th of July, 1910, in the parish of Islington, North London. Summer heat had settled over the city, and the streets smelled of horse dung and coal smoke mixed with the faint sweetness of roses from the gardens behind the terraced houses. Hilldrop Crescent curved in a gentle arc, lined with three-story brick homes, where clerks and small businessmen lived with their families. At number 39, the curtains had been drawn for several days. Dr. Hawley Harvey Crippen had lived there for more than a decade with his wife Cora, a woman known to her theatrical friends as Belle Elmore. She had not been seen since the end of January. Her husband said she had returned to America to nurse a dying relative. Then he said she had died there herself. Her friends had grown suspicious. The doctor's young mistress, Ethel Leneve, had moved into the house and been seen wearing Cora's jewellery about town. Chief Inspector Walter Dew of Scotland Yard had called twice already. On his first visit, the doctor had seemed calm, even helpful. On his second visit, the house was empty. What lay beneath the coal cellar floor would send the inspector across the Atlantic in pursuit of a fugitive who believed he had escaped. Hawley Harvey Crippen was born on the 11th of September, 1862, in Coldwater, Michigan. His parents kept a dry goods store. He studied medicine at the University of Michigan, and later at the Cleveland Homeopathic Hospital. By the time he was 30, he had the letters M.D. after his name and a position in New York. There he met Charlotte Bell, an Irish nurse. They married. In 1890, Charlotte bore a son named Otto. 17 months later, she died of apoplexy whilst carrying their second child. The boy went to live with his grandparents in California. Dr. Crippen remained in New York, working as an assistant physician. Within months, he met Cora Turner, a girl of 19, who used the stage name Belle Elmore. She had been born in Brooklyn to Polish and German parents. She wished to perform in theatres and music halls. In September 1892, just 9 months after Charlotte's death, Dr. Crippen and Cora Turner were married. She was 11 years younger. He was mild-mannered and meticulous. She was loud, demanding, and fond of expensive clothes. The marriage was not easy from the start. Cora found little work on the New York stage. In 1893, an economic depression struck America. Unemployment rose. Theatres closed or cut their programs. Dr. Crippen and a colleague started a mail-order business called Munyon's Homeopathic. It prospered. In 1897, they decided to open a branch in London. Dr. Crippen and Cora sailed for England. 2 years later, Dr. Crippen parted ways with Munyon's. It was said his partner believed he spent too much time assisting his wife's theatrical ambitions. Cora continued to audition for roles. She sang in small halls and performed at minor venues, but her career went nowhere. Dr. Crippen could not practice medicine in England, so he found work with a dental company that sold patent remedies. There he employed a young typist named Ethel Leneve, born on the 22nd of January, 1883, in Diss, Norfolk. She was quiet and unassuming, much like the doctor himself. Over 20 years his junior, she reminded him of simpler times. By the early years of the new century, the Crippens' marriage had deteriorated further. They lived separate lives under the same roof. Cora joined the Music Hall Ladies' Guild, a social organisation for women connected to the theatre. She took the position of honorary treasurer. She entertained friends, attended luncheons, and spoke often of her ambitions. Dr. Crippen worked long hours and came home late. They rarely spoke. In 1905, the couple moved from a more fashionable address in Piccadilly to 39 Hilldrop Crescent. The house was smaller, cheaper, and in a less desirable neighbourhood. Cora took in lodgers to supplement their income. She was particular about whom she accepted. Dr. Crippen did not understand why until one afternoon when he returned home unexpectedly and found his wife in bed with one of the paying guests. He said nothing. She said nothing. The lodger left by the end of the week. Dr. Crippen sought comfort elsewhere. Ethel Leneve had remained in his employ. They had worked together for years. She was gentle, soft-spoken, and admired him. He took her to luncheon. They walked together in the parks. Before long, They became lovers. Cora suspected, but did not seem to care. She had her own companions. It was said she kept company with a former music hall performer named Bruce Miller, though nothing was proven. On the evening of Monday, the 31st of January, 1910, Cora invited her friends Paul and Clara Martinetti to dinner at Hilldrop Crescent. The Martinettis were also involved in the theatre. Dr. Crippen liked them. The four dined together, laughed, played cards, and spoke of inconsequential matters. The Martinettis left just after 1:30 in the morning. They shook hands with Dr. Crippen in the hallway. Cora kissed Clara on the cheek and said she would see her soon at the next guild meeting. The door closed. The Martinettis walked down the steps and into the street. It was the last time anyone saw Cora Crippen alive. Within days, Cora failed to attend the guild meeting. The ladies were surprised. She always attended. A letter arrived, signed by Mrs. Crippen, stating that she had been called away suddenly to America to nurse a dying relative. The members of the Music Hall Ladies' Guild found Cora's sudden departure strange. She had not said goodbye. She had not mentioned any ill relatives. When they asked Dr. Crippen, he repeated the same explanation. A relative in America was gravely ill. Cora had left in haste. He seemed unbothered by it. In March, Ethel Leneve moved into the house at Hilldrop Crescent. She was seen at the theatre wearing Cora's furs and jewellery. The guild members grew alarmed. Why would Cora leave her belongings behind? Dr. Crippen was asked again. This time, he said Cora had fallen ill in America. On the 24th of March, a telegram arrived at the Martinettis' home. It stated that Cora had died the previous day. The telegram was sent from Victoria Station in London, not from America. Mrs. Martinetti and the other guild members began to question the story. The husband of one member, a man named John Nash, travelled to New York on business. While there, he made inquiries. He could find no record of Cora Crippen's death, no burial, no hospital admission. When he returned to London, he went to the police. On Friday, the 8th of July, Chief Inspector Walter Dew of Scotland Yard went to Hilldrop Crescent. Ethel answered the door. She said the doctor was at work. Inspector Dew went to Dr. Crippen's office. The doctor seemed calm. He answered every question. But his story had changed. He now said that Cora had not died at all. She had left him for another man, Bruce Miller, and returned to America with him. He had invented the story of her death to save himself from embarrassment. Inspector Dew accompanied Dr. Crippen back to the house. He made a brief search. Everything appeared in order. He told the doctor to try to locate his wife, so that she could confirm his account. Dr. Crippen said he would do his best. The following day, Saturday, the 9th of July, Dr. Crippen and Ethel Leneve packed a suitcase and left the house. They did not return. On Monday, the 11th of July, Inspector Dew went back to Hilldrop Crescent. The house was empty. His suspicions were now fully aroused. He ordered a thorough search of the property. Officers searched the house room by room. They examined wardrobes, cupboards, drawers, and trunks. They found nothing of immediate concern. The garden was dug over. Nothing was found. Finally, Inspector Dew went down to the coal cellar. The floor was made of brick and clay. Some of the bricks near the centre of the room appeared loose. He ordered his men to remove them. Beneath the bricks, the earth had been disturbed. The officers dug carefully. Within minutes, they uncovered something wrapped in cloth. The smell was unmistakable. They continued digging. What emerged was a human torso, limbless and headless, wrapped in a pajama top and covered with quicklime. It had been buried for months. The remains were taken to Islington mortuary. Dr. Augustus Pepper, lecturer in forensic medicine at Street, Mary's Hospital, conducted the post-mortem examination. He reported that the torso belonged to an adult, but he could not determine whether it was male or female. The head, limbs, and bones had been removed. A piece of skin remained that bore an old abdominal scar. This scar matched the location of an operation Cora Crippen was known to have undergone years earlier. Samples of the organs were sent for analysis. Dr. William Wilcox, senior scientific analyst to the Home Office, conducted toxicological tests. He found traces of hyoscine, a powerful sedative and poison, in the remains. Further investigation revealed that Dr. Crippen had purchased 5 grains of hyoscine hydrobromide from a chemist named Lewis and Burrows on the 17th of January, 1910, 2 weeks before Cora disappeared. He had signed the poison register as required by law. The pajama top was examined. It bore a label from the manufacturer Jones Brothers. The company confirmed that the particular label and design had not been used before 1908. This meant the remains must have been placed in the cellar after the Crippens had moved into the house. If you are finding this case as compelling as we are, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. It truly helps us continue researching and sharing these forgotten stories from history. We also read every comment. So, let us know your thoughts on this case below. Now, let us continue. A warrant was issued for the arrest of Dr. Hawley Harvey Crippen and Ethel Leneve on charges of murder and accessory to murder. Descriptions of the pair were circulated to all ports and police stations. Photographs were published in newspapers across Britain and cabled to authorities in Europe and America. Constables were dispatched to railway stations. Telegrams were sent to New York, Montreal, and other major cities. But Dr. Crippen and his companion had vanished. Days passed. No trace of them was found. The press reported every detail. The public waited. The couple had in fact travelled by train to Brussels. From there, they went to Antwerp. Ethel had cut her hair short and dressed as a boy. Dr. Crippen had shaved his moustache and wore spectacles. On the 20th of July, they boarded the SS Montrose, a Canadian Pacific steamship bound for Montreal. Dr. Crippen signed the passenger register under the name Mr. John Philo Robinson. He introduced Ethel as his 16-year-old son, John Robinson Jr. The Montrose was a slow vessel, taking 10 days to cross the Atlantic. Captain Henry Kendall observed the pair carefully. The boys' trousers were far too tight. The father and son held hands and embraced in a manner that seemed unusual. Captain Kendall had read about the fugitives in the newspapers. He believed that Mr. Robinson was in fact Dr. Crippen. The Montrose was equipped with wireless telegraphy. On the 22nd of July, Captain Kendall sent a message to the ship's owners. It read, "Have strong suspicions that Crippen London cellar murderer and accomplice are among saloon passengers." Moustache taken off, growing beard. Accomplice dressed as boy. Voice, manner, and build undoubtedly a girl. The message was forwarded to Scotland Yard. Inspector Dew boarded the SS Laurentic, a faster ship, on the 23rd of July. He arrived in Canada 1 day before the Montrose. On Sunday, the 31st of July, as the Montrose sailed up the St. Lawrence River, Inspector Dew and Canadian officers boarded the ship. He approached Dr. Crippen on deck and said, "Good morning, Dr. Crippen. I am Chief Inspector Dew of Scotland Yard, and I have a warrant for your arrest for the murder of your wife, Cora Crippen." The doctor replied quietly, "Thank God it is over. The suspense has been too great. I could not stand it any longer." Dr. Crippen and Ethel Leneve were taken into custody and held in Quebec. After 3 weeks, extradition papers were completed. They were placed on board the SS Megantic and returned to England. They arrived at Liverpool on the 29th of August. Large crowds gathered at the docks. The prisoners were taken by train to London and held separately to await trial. Dr. Crippen was remanded to Brixton Prison. Ethel was held at Holloway. It was decided that the two should be tried separately. Dr. Crippen's trial began at the Central Criminal Court, known as the Old Bailey, on Tuesday, the 18th of October, 1910. The courtroom was filled to capacity. Members of the public queued for hours to secure a seat in the gallery. The Lord Chief Justice, Lord Alverstone, presided. The prosecution was led by Mr. Richard Muir, assisted by Mr. Travers Humphreys and Mr. S. A. T. Rowlett. The defence was conducted by Mr. Arthur Newton and Mr. Huntley Jenkins. Dr. Crippen pleaded not guilty to the charge of wilful murder. The trial lasted 5 days. The prosecution presented the physical evidence: the remains, the pajama top, the hyoscine. Dr. Pepper testified about the post-mortem findings. Dr. Wilcox described the toxicological analysis. The chemist confirmed the purchase of poison. The Martinettis and other witnesses described Cora's disappearance and Dr. Crippen's conflicting explanations. Ethel's landlady, testified that Miss Leneve had moved into Hilldrop Crescent and been seen wearing Mrs. Crippen's jewellery and furs. The defence argued that the remains could not be positively identified as Cora Crippen. They suggested that the body might have been in the cellar before the Crippens moved into the house. The pyjama label evidence disproved this. They argued that Dr. Crippen had purchased the hyoscine for professional purposes. The quantity and timing made this implausible. Dr. Crippen did not take the stand. On Saturday, the 22nd of October, the judge sent the jury out to deliberate. They returned after 27 minutes with a verdict of guilty. Lord Alverstone placed the black cap upon his head and pronounced the sentence of death. Dr. Crippen stood motionless. He was led from the dock and returned to Pentonville Prison. Ethel Leneve's trial began on the 25th of October. She was charged with being an accessory, after the fact, to murder. Her defence counsel, Mr. F. E. Smith, argued that she had no knowledge of the crime and had acted under Dr. Crippen's influence. The jury acquitted her after a short deliberation. She left the court a free woman. Dr. Crippen's appeal was heard and rejected. The Home Secretary, Winston Churchill, refused to commute the sentence. Ethel wrote to Dr. Crippen daily. She was permitted to visit him once. On the evening of Tuesday, the 22nd of November, Dr. Crippen requested that he be buried with Ethel's letters and photographs. The request was granted. At 9 o'clock on the morning of Wednesday, the 23rd of November, 1910, Dr. Hawley Harvey Crippen was hanged at Pentonville Prison by executioner John Ellis. He was 48 years old. He never confessed to the murder. His body was buried in an unmarked grave within the prison grounds. Ethel Leneve changed her name and emigrated to Canada. She later returned to England, married a man named Stanley Smith, and had 2 children. She died in 1967, aged 84. Otto Crippen, the doctor's son from his first marriage, died in Los Angeles in 1974. He was 83. The house at 39 Hilldrop Crescent was eventually demolished. The street remains. On quiet evenings, people walk past where the house once stood. Few remember what happened there. The file remains in the archives, bound in dust and silence. Beyond that, only the questions that were never answered